the leisure of the committee.
Well, why don't we else pavilion?
We're simply asking for a site plan extension to permit the use of the sales pavilion while they are undergoing marketing strategies and attempting to build out the development at Sunnydale Homes. The only comment I would have to the staff report is that we would request a further extension of not just 5 years but to 10 to circumvent process from coming back and requesting an extension in future. That's only based.
Is there any comments?
I guess just a comment before we move forward that I would ask that that item be pulled for discussion when we get to the consent agenda.
Okay.
Please.
I just wanted one question that Tracy Jarrett is here. Sorry. The sales officer, we used to giving 10-year extensions to people for a sales trailer.
Good morning, Madam Chair. The standard is 5 years or less, and that's typically because most subdivisions do tend to sell out within that period, and the purpose of those sales pavilions are no longer required. This one is, as Laura and I mentioned, it is a significantly larger project. I think the staff report mentions that the location of the sales pavilion is within the first 1 or 2 phases of development, and it's anticipated that within that 5 years, where the pavilion currently exists, it would be built over. And the staff report is suggesting that the sales pavilion can be modified and put into model homes as an alternative. So the 5 years is a fairly generous standard from the staff point of view. So we're open to these thoughts and suggestions.
Thank you. Any comments after hearing from Doug, Your Worship?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what I'm hearing from Doug, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that 5 years is, as he said, a fairly generous standard, and that it should be comfortable with that. And I understand where Laura Lee's coming from. Come back, and it's just more work for everybody. But it's always good to see where we're at, I think, as we go through these large developments, and it's good. It's great to see it get rolling, and there's no doubt it's going to be an amazing development, but I would suggest we stay at the 5-year mark.
Any other thoughts around the table?
I'll address it now. The reason I asked for it to be pulled is that I would be asking for the 10 years. I think it is a significant development in our community. It has been ongoing for a long time. I would think that if they can sell it before 10 years and get rid of a model home, they're going to. So I myself would like to see the 10 years offered to them. It's expensive for the developers to continue to send their consultants and do all of these things, and the reality is if they can sell it quicker, they will.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes.
Or if I may add, Madam Chair, it's 556 units, and it is a significant development, and certainly I do understand the comments toward the location of the facility, so obviously it's in the best interest of our client to obviously convert a home into a model home if need be, but to circumvent coming back and having process, between 5 and 10 years would be more ideal.
So I guess from a procedural point of view, we'll go into the consent agenda. If you just stand by, we'll deal with that now. Do I see any objection around the table? We'll deal with that consent agenda first, and we'll pull that one for consideration. So I guess the resolution is, Development Services Section Coordinated Committee hereby receives the September 14, 2017 consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.4.3, and that all the recommendations contained therein be adopted.
So, Madam Chair, I'll just amend that motion just to take out 541P1, and so that will come back immediately following for discussion by committee.
Do we have a motion for?
I think the committee secretary is preparing.
I know it's a big development. It's been several years underway. It's nice to see something finally starting to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you copied it, but I wanted it to say.
So this is the recommendation.
Okay, so we'll go back to the original motion, resolve that development services section, moved by Councillor Bray and seconded by Deputy Mayor Fulci, resolve that the development service section of coordinated committee hereby receives the September 14, 2017 consent agenda items 5.1 through to 5.4.3, and that all the recommendations contained therein be adopted with the exception of 5.4.1 D1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Fulci?
In favor?
Councillor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Ego?
In favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell?
In favor.
Chair Smith?
In favor.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you.
So, just so you know, as Neil was the Brown secretary, they were okay with the change from 5 to 10.
Okay.
So just so you know, to change from
Okay. There is a change from the recommendation on the item D1, I guess. So I'll read the resolution. Moved by Deputy Mayor Fulci, seconded by Councillor Bray. The Development Services section of Coordinated Committee recommend to Council that the temporary site plan approval to permit a sales office for Pacific Homes Sunnydale Trails plan of subdivision at 775 Sunnydale Road South be extended for the lesser of 10 years for the construction of a model home sales office.
Madam Chair, if we could indulge maybe Mr. Heron or Mr. Wukash, I know the report is fairly clear, but I'd like some more clarity on the report and the 5-year versus 10-year. I certainly don't want to cost or cause the developer more dollars, but my concern is, 5 years and then where are we at, and that pavilion has been there for quite some time already. So if we could get some more clarity maybe from staff, I would appreciate that.
Okay, Mr. Heron, would you like to come join us here?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could, I'm going to ask Mr. Wukash to speak to the phasing of the development and the timing of construction relative to where the pavilion currently sits, and that might help committee in terms of the impact of timing.
Good morning. So just in terms of the timing and the location of the current existing sales trailer, it's located right on Sunnydale Road. It's located in the phase 1A and B of Pacific Homes development. So it's as the grading and the servicing progresses, as Pacific has identified in their phasing plan, it would be sort of consumed by that probably fairly quickly in the development. So that's why we had suggested 5 years or the lesser of 5 years, or the establishment of the model home, basically, to use that. So from our perspective, it's not a great concern if the committee chooses to give a 10-year time frame. It does give the more security if that is a location that Pacific would like to leave. But as we look at the phasing of the plan, it looks like the phasing will make that site redundant fairly quickly, and in most cases a developer would use an existing home or a model home that they've built as a showcase of the type of product that they're selling. So I hope that provides a little bit more information.
Yes.
So for clarity, I'm hearing staff say that they are very comfortable with 5 years because of the points that Nathan has just made clear. So I would suggest that 5 year be more than ample.
Okay, just for clarification through the CAO, the original motion had said for the lesser of 5 years, and the resolution that I've got, moved by Deputy Mayor Fulci and seconded by Councillor Bray, has been changed to 10 years.
Yeah.
So I'm just not sure where we are procedurally then. Do I have to recommend this one or this one?
So, Madam Chair, I'll defer that to the clerk to respond with respect to the status of that motion.
Madam Chair. So similar to the other motions that we dealt with earlier in the evening, earlier in the day, when there was a mover and seconder in the case, it was the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Bray. They were in favor of making that change to the recommendation before it was read. Once that is read, then it becomes, you know, a change can be made. Of course, it can be referred or changed to 5, but it would be more of a formal amendment by a mover and a seconder and a new motion to amend the main motion.
Okay.
So point of order, we're voting on the amendment first?
Madam Chair. So the motion before you is not a formal amendment. It was done before it was put onto the, or read or in front of the table. So this was done prior to that. So this is the motion as it stands now. If committee wishes to accept it, that's wonderful. If not, then we can make a motion to amend that motion by changing 10 to 5. If
So we
that's
go backwards?
correct
Okay,
in this
thank you.
case.
Sorry, I hear from Laura, yes.
Yeah, just if I may, Madam Chair, I'd just like to add that I appreciate the comments from staff, and I guess my point to this is that the market conditions are not predictable, so therefore, you know, as soon as this sales pavilion is not necessary on the property anymore, it will be removed, but circumventing coming back and having a process for the developer to allow them to proceed would be ideal.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. And just for clarity, I think I heard Mr. Wukash say he wasn't overly concerned about the 10 years either. If we were to put that in there because you're confident that it's going to be done quicker anyways.
Through you, Madam Chair, yeah, that's correct. If the committee chooses to go with 10 years, we're fine with that. We feel that the site will become obsolete as the development progresses, and the developer will likely look at another venue. So I think 5 or 10 would be appropriate.
Thank you.
So my understanding is that if you want to go back, if you would like to propose 5 years instead of 10, is that we need a motion from the floor as an amendment.
So Madam Chair, my concern is that this pavilion has been there probably getting on close to 5, 7, 10 years already, and we haven't seen any progress. And and I'm highly doubtful that that's going to happen again, because I think the market conditions are considerably different. But I would hate to see the market change and we'd be, you know, at 4 years, and now we've got this pavilion that sits there overgrown and not looking great for another 5 years. That's my concern. So, you know, I understand the point that's being made here, and I understand there's not a lot of concern. My concern is that the residents that are currently in the area are going to possibly, if we go to 10 years, face, you know, if the market changes, and it's very, you know, it wouldn't be unreasonable if it did, that we now have a sales pavilion that's sitting there, not maintained and overgrown, and you know, they got to drive by it and see it out their back door, their back window for however many years is left.
So, Councillor Belanger, go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a question. I'm not really familiar with this area, but I'm hearing there's not a great concern. But I mean, is there any concern, like when you're making an exception of 10 years? Again, I'm concerned about precedent. Like, I mean, what if Bay Cliff Homes wants 10 years, also a very sizable development or whatever it is? Is there reasons why we've kept it more towards 5 years or less?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. The 5 years tends to be a standard, and so staff are far more comfortable with the 5 years than extending it out for a decade, which is far more unpredictable in terms of the market and the lastingness of that building on the site and its presentation to the street, and it is a prominent street. Right now, the market seems to be the biggest factor in moving this forward. And we have examples of, I think, Laura and I mentioned that there was 500 and change units in this subdivision. And we have other subdivisions, for instance, the Elm Developments, they have 231 units which sold out in 1 year and will go to construction in 1 year. Similarly, we have Bay Cliff Homes, who sold out an entire phase in 1 summer. So the current conditions of the market would suggest that 5 years is more than enough time for this pavilion to exist in its and to market this and to go to construction and to sell the homes and occupy the homes. 10 years is it's feasible, but it projects it out an entire decade, which is a long time, and there's a lot of change that could happen from now till then in all aspects of the market and build out and companies. So the 5 years is a comfort level, which it's half a decade. It's quite a long period of time. So staff felt initially that, you know, it's a reasonable time. In terms of the actual approvals process from the planning side of things, it's one of the simplest and most streamlined planning approvals that we have in place. Basically, it's the submission of concept sketches as we have before us, and one report to committee. And the actual approvals don't go much more beyond that. There's a site plan agreement, but we already have one in place in this case, and that's the one we're leveraging to go forward for another 5 years. So yes, I would agree that there is some expense on the part of the developer to renew the application. It is minimal in terms of you know, comparison to other planning approvals that we have in place. And as a whole, we feel that 5 years is fairly reasonable. But we would not object to 10 if that's
Just
committee's decision.
one more question, Doug, is like at the renewal stage, like, I mean, what is that, like we see homes and things in different level of condition, but at time of renewal, if it were overgrown or needed a paint job or those kinds of things, does it give you an opportunity to address that at that time, as opposed to, do we have other mechanisms to address those types of things?
I believe so. In the approvals itself, I don't know that those mechanisms exist, but potentially through the property standards bylaw that we have, there might be some ability to make sure that the building is kept in a decent state.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. That was going to be my comment. We have property standards. If it starts to look overgrown and ugly, then we serve a notice saying you have to clean it up. Like, I really don't think it's a big deal for spending an awful lot of time on it, to a point where I think we have staff even contradicting each other. So I think we should just vote on the motion.
Okay. We are running past our 11 o'clock public meeting time. Is there any, Councilor Bray, I saw your hand up. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm just going to refer back to property standards bylaws.
Okay, and that, Mayor, do you want to put a motion forward for 5 years?
So we need another amendment to the motion, is that what we?
This was an amendment.
Madam Chair, I think the Deputy Mayor moved putting in the motion.
If I may, Madam Chair, my understanding is that the question's on the floor. I think we need to vote on that first, do we not?
Okay. All right, so on the floor, I'll read this again, moved by Deputy Mayor Fulci, seconded by Councillor Bray. The Development Services Section of Coordinated Committee recommend to Council that the temporary site plan approval to permit a sales office for Pacific Homes Sunnydale Trails plan of subdivision at 775 Sunnydale Road South be extended for the lesser of 10 years or the construction of a model home sales office.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger?
Opposed?
Deputy Mayor Fulci?
In favor.
Councillor Bray?
In favor?
Councillor Eagle?
Opposed?
Councillor Stockwell?
Opposed?
Mayor Smith?
Opposed?
Chair Smith?
Opposed.
Thank you. The motion is defeated on a vote of 2 in favor and 5 opposed. Thank you.
So how do we get back to the 5 year?
Madam Chair, so in that particular case, what would happen if there was an amendment wanted to that main motion, then at that point, prior to calling for the vote, you would say, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion by removing the 10 years and inserting 5 years. And then we would vote on the motion to amend, and then that would make the change to the original, and then we would deal with the original motion if that's
So at this point, we're cutting them off completely?
Yeah.
No.
That will depend on the CAO
We
here.
can deal with it immediately, can we not?
Excuse me, so just on that particular point, so the motion was voted on and it's been defeated at 10 years. So I think the question had to do with now, it's the staff recommendation with respect to the 5 years and what is the process to have that before the committee. And just as we're discussing that, just to complete that thought, we're now at 5 after 11 with respect to the public meeting that was scheduled for 11. So do we continue with this matter and just finish this off before we commence the public meeting, or do we just adjourn this particular matter and then convene the public meeting and return to this matter? So those are just a couple of clarification questions, Madam Clerk.
Okay, thank you. Mayor?
My suggestion is deal with it, get it done, and my thought process was that if the motion was defeated, that we would now fall back to staff's recommendation.
And Your Worship, the motion was defeated. So now there needs to be a process in order to introduce the staff recommendation.
So a new motion on the floor, correct? That's correct?
That's my understanding. The clerk can perhaps confirm that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is yes. If the mayor wishes to bring forward the motion as it was worded originally, then I can prepare that for consideration of the
I would
committee.
move that, Madam Clerk. Does someone second that?
Second.
Procedurally.
My apologies to the Strongman staff for just delayed a few moments.
Second.
Or maybe contact. Is that what it is? I really know it. I know you want to. Yeah. Spend this much time with the coordinators.
Sorry. Thank you.
I have a new motion, resolution on the floor, moved by Mayor Smith, seconded by Councillor Stockwell. The Development Services section of Coordinated Committee recommend to Council that the temporary site plan approval to permit a sales office for Pacific Homes Sunnydale Trails plan of subdivision at 775 Sunnydale Road South be extended for the lesser of 5 years or the construction of a model home sales office. Discussion?
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi?
In favor.
Councillor Gray?
In favor?
Councillor Ego?
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell?
Favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor?
Chair Smith?
In favor.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. So I will go and open our public meeting. And welcome Howard and Sheila Truax to the table.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning.
So I will read this. The proposed amendment to the Town of Wasaga Beach Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2003-60, Strongman Glenwood Drive. Notice of public meeting was published in the Wasaga Sun newspaper on August 24th, 2017, and circulated to all agencies and property owners and assessed persons within 400 feet from the subject lands as prescribed in the Planning Act. This provided 20 days of notice for the public meeting, and this meeting is therefore properly constituted as required by the Planning Act. The land subject to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment include 2 parcels of land. The first parcel is vacant, is located on Glenwood Drive, and is described as part of Lot 1, Plan 696, being Part 2, Plan 51R-27744. The second parcel supports a single detached dwelling, is addressed as 134 Glenwood Drive, and is described as Lot 2, Registered Plan 696, Part 6, Plan 51R-21532. The 2 parcels are proposed to be merged into 1 parcel. The proposed zoning amendment, the zoning bylaw amendment would rezone the vacant part of land from the Development D zone to the residential, Type 1 R1 and Environmental Protection EP zones. The amendment further proposes to rezone a portion of the lands located at 134 Glenwood Drive from the residential Type 1 R1 zone to the Environmental Protection EP zone. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would facilitate the expansion of the existing dwelling located at 134 Glenwood Drive and would recognize the existing flood and erosion hazards located on the subject lands adjacent to the Wasaga River. As a result of the circulation of the notice of public meeting, the following written comments were received. Letters of support, none. Letters of no objection. The NBCA has commented that they have no objection and that a permit for the proposed construction has been issued. Excuse me. Letters of concern, none. Letters of objection, none. Ms. Jarrett, have we received any further letters or correspondence in regard to this application?
No, Madam Chair, we haven't.
Thank you. So Mr. Truax will now make a brief presentation and will provide further details with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment. Should I read the rest of it? Is there anyone present that would like to provide input either in support of or in opposition to the proposed amendment? Seeing none. If so, please stand and clearly state your name and address in order that it may be correctly entered into the records of today's proceedings. Are there any further comments? Okay, now I think we hear from Mr. Truax there.
Okay. This property was bought quite a few years ago. Strongers have owned that piece of property for many, many years, and it was supposed to be added on to the existing property, but the lawyers were clever than anybody else and they didn't do it. So that's what happened. You've got a plan of the house and where the addition is going, and the addition is approximately 20 by 26 for a bedroom and a bathroom being extended. We agree on the environmentally protected area. We have no problem with that because there is a steel wall in the river, then a walkway, and then a concrete wall at the bottom of the river, and the bank is totally covered with 2-inch clear stone. It has been like that for years. I've been working there for over 50 years, so I can tell you every stone that's in there. So that's the problem that created. The lawyers have supposed to have changed this over. There's been nothing sent to the town. Tracy hasn't received anything, but when I finish this meeting, there will be stuff sent to this town very quickly. So that's what all I can say. The lot is going to stay the same, and can't add much more than that to it, I don't think.
Thank you.
It's well maintained. If you ever want to have a tour of it, it's the best park in Wasaga Beach.
Yeah.
We'll give you a
Fishing too, I
personal tour.
understand. So I will ask members of the committee if they have any questions or comments with regards to the proposed amendment. Deputy Mayor Byful.
Just a comment that I fully support it. If you've got the NBCA on board, then
I have the permit right here.
Yeah.
We had that first.
Then I was going to say you should be good to go then.
But I knew this wouldn't fly, but they wouldn't believe me, so I presented the plan to the town of Wasaga Beach, and that's the best way to prove to them. Those are the goals, make the rules, but they have to change the rule.
Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Absolutely. I'm just wondering to start if Howard could tell me the stone that's in place 18 feet from the top and 4 feet from the property line, when did you place that?
That stone years ago.
Thank you.
The whole riverbank, there's 5 properties. That's all done, but you probably can see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful property. It's very well maintained. The Strongmans are absolutely great neighbors to have, and they're certainly the way they maintain their property and carry themselves are certainly a great example for our community. And I don't see any issue with this. I would support it 100%, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments around the table? Comments received today will be considered and a decision will be made as to whether committee will recommend the proposed amendment proceed further through the approval process. Anyone receiving notice of the public meeting will receive notice of the decision of council in this matter. If you did not receive the notice and would like to receive a copy of the notice of decision for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, please leave your name and address with the recording secretary or make a written request to the clerk of the town of Wasaga Beach. This concludes our public meeting. Thank you very much. So, seeing no other matters with regards to the development services section, we will recess and go on to our next committee meeting. Get 5 or 10 minute break. What's the pleasure? 10 minutes? 5? We'll resume at 20 past 11. Today, no.
Call the consent agenda. All items listed below will be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. At this point, section 6.4.1B, Wasaga Valley Conservation Authority has been pulled. Section C, Finance, the 2017 second quarter report has been pulled. And I believe that is it, unless there's any other. Seeing none, I will read the motion. Resolved that General Government Section of Coordinated Committee hereby receives. Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Mifulci, seconded by Councillor Stockwell. Resolved that General Government Section of Coordinated Committee hereby receives the September 14, 2017 consent agenda, items 6.41 through to 6.43, and that the recommendations contained therein be adopted as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Mifulci?
In favor?
Councillor Ego?
In favor?
Councillor Smith?
In favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell?
In favor.
Chair Bray?
In favor?
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. First item pulled was the Wasaga Valley Conservation Authority Integrated Watershed Management Plan request for support and funding application. And I believe this was a Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I asked for this to be pulled because I think the recommendations looking for direction regarding the in-kind contribution, but also any financial contributions. I fully support our staff being involved in this and helping in any way that they can, but I would like to see some, even if it's the $500 range. I think climate change is an issue we all have to deal with, and the Conservation Authority, by doing an integrated watershed management plan, will be, in my opinion, beneficial to our community. So I would like to see the $500 at least put towards that.
Do we need to see an amendment to this motion, or does it go back to staff for Mr. Cedillo? Sorry, Deputy Mayor?
I'm putting that out there, but if there's not support around the table, then we don't need to amend it. If there is support for it, then that would be great.
Because the motion reads that direction be provided to staff on a recommendation for support. So is there any discussion at the table about financial contributions? Mayor Smith?
Go ahead.
Sorry, did you say?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
Mayor Smith,
All right,
I saw your
thank
hand
you,
first.
Madam Chair. So through you to the Deputy. So Deputy Mayor, this funding was not included in the NVCA's 17 budget, is that correct?
No, it's not. This is over and above. This is something that they're trying to get done.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Yes, I see the, I was with the in-kind support for staff, and Deputy Mayor can answer this for me, is how much time do you see that taking of staff?
Again, I would be guessing, but I don't see it. I don't see it as being a huge undertaking. I think it's just if they have questions about certain whatever in our community, they would be asking all the municipalities for it. But I don't see it as being any. I mean, they have most of the documents anyways.
Okay.
But maybe they might ask if there's any new reports that have come or anything like that. So,
Thank you.
Okay, any more comments? Councillor Boulanger?
Yeah, just only comment, I agree, I think a show of support by the town is good, but a question of the CFO, is that something that, where do you recommend that come out of the budget? I know there's still a little bit of grant funding left, or just?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so it would be up to council in terms of the decision. I think staff would find a funding source for the amount. I think that we're not talking about a large sum here in terms of a grant request. It's just a matter of determining the amount. If I may, Madam Chair, may I just provide a comment? I just going through the letter, and I see that they would like to hear back from the town by the end of October, if I read this correctly. So on the last page, third last paragraph, if we could receive your council resolution no later than October 27th So I think there's some time to have this matter considered. So typically with these type of requests, council can choose if it would like to make a recommendation, or committee could make a recommendation to council at this particular meeting, or it could refer the matter to staff and we could bring back a report to the next coordinated committee that could be approved and then considered by the deadline. It's up to committee in terms of how it would like to proceed. Typically, these have come referred to staff and then a recommendation come forward. But I'm entirely in committee's hands with respect to how it would like to proceed.
Mayor Smith?
I think a report would be good, so we can have hopefully a better idea as to what the cost might be moving forward. They may require more, they may require less, but it'd be good for us to have that, and if they require more, it's something we should seriously consider, because again, it's going to benefit, I think, all communities within the watershed.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that, so I think that recommendation is still fine, it's sending it back and
Yeah.
come back.
Councillor Smith?
Yes, just one question. Would this be a budgeted item for 2017, or would that be something we need to carry over to 2018?
I wanna say they would need it now. It wouldn't be an ongoing thing, it would just be
Right.
$500, but, or whatever amount is chosen, but, yeah, I believe, the whole idea is they have to get the letters in, to the ministry in order to get funded. Yeah, they need support from the municipalities, so.
It's 500 or 600.
Yeah, so in reading the letter, my interpretation was that to receive the grant from the government, they need to have support from partners, which is what we do when we're applying for grants. So I think they're looking for that token acknowledgement. So, Mayor Smith?
So, Madam Chair, Deputy Mayor Byfolchi sits on the NBCA, and if she's comfortable with $500, then I would say let's move it forward and get it done if that's the case, or if she feels a report is more warranted, then I'm fine either way, but if we can deal with it now, let's deal with it now.
I
Deputy
just
Mayor?
actually realized it's 600.
600 for
I
staff.
don't have my glasses
Well,
on.
you're gonna have to provide another 100.
Hurry up
Well,
before it goes up.
No,
I think
So-
Hurry up before it goes up more.
Hang on.
What was the in-kind, they estimated at 600, and then they were asking for between 500 and 2,500
Yes.
for
Okay,
cash
that's where we got
donations.
the 500.
So yeah, so a staff report's probably not a bad idea, because it will maybe come back with a level that we will all be comfortable with. So I will read the motion. Moved by Councillor Stockwell, seconded by Mayor Smith. Resolved that the General Government Services Section of Coordinated Committee received the letter dated August 31st, 2017 from the Wasaga Valley Conservation Authority for information. And further, that direction be provided to staff on a recommendation for support in kind contribution request and any further financial contribution amounts. Mr. Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi,
In favor?
Councillor Ego,
In favor.
Councillor Smith,
In favor.
Mayor Smith,
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell,
Favor.
Chair Ray.
In favor?
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. So just, if I may, just so everybody understands, this matter will go to staff, and there'll be a report coming forward on the next coordinated committee with a recommendation with respect to the amount. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving along, the next item pulled was item C, Finance, the 2017 second quarter financial report. Deputy Mayor Byfolchi.
Thank you. When I was going through it, I noticed that it spoke to the different leases and what was outstanding, and I didn't see the DART, so I did ask the treasurer if we had received the payments for that, and was told no, and that it was being dealt with by the Beachfront Management Board. So I'm assuming it was in camera, because I didn't, unless I missed it in the minutes, I didn't see anything in the minutes about it. I'm not allowed to sit in camera or see those minutes, so I guess I'm looking to the CAO to ask any changes to a lease or the payment expectations, when would that become public, if there was any? Because at this point, I can't get answers because a different board is looking after it.
So, Madam Chair, through to you, Councilor or Deputy Mayor, the matter will become public when the board deals with it on its public agenda. So that matter was referred to staff. Staff are dealing with it. We'll be bringing a report forward to the board. The board will be dealing with it. Due to the nature of the matter, it will end up on a public agenda, and the board and then council will be made aware at that time when it's on the public agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments on the financial report? So I just had one about the Main Street Market. I know that we're looking to write off a rent that we couldn't have collected last year, and I'm just wondering if all the tenants from this year have been invoiced and if they're current, so that we don't run into 12 months later recognizing that we won't be able to collect rent from this year. So I guess I'm just looking for confirmation that we are collecting rent on a timely basis, so that next year we don't face what we're facing this year and having to write things off. Madam Treasurer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we are collecting the rents on the Main Street Market. There are, I believe, still some billings that are pending, but they're mainly up to date on the Main Street Market, and I believe there is one account, and I apologize, I don't have which account it is, but I believe there is one account that we are looking at with regards to the Main Street Market. That might not be correct, with the rest of them being reasonable.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? The motion moved by Deputy Mayor Byfolchi, seconded by Councillor Stockwell. Resolved that the General Government Services Section Coordinated Committee recommended council to receive the 2017 second quarter financial report for information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi.
In favor?
Councillor Ego.
In favor.
Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
In favor.
Chair Bray. Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Seeing no other matters, the date of the next meeting, the coordinating committee, will be October 19th, 2017. And the opening. Yeah, that's number 7, right? That was 6.4. So the next part of this meeting will be closed session. So I will read the motion to go into closed session. Moved by Deputy Mayor Byfolchi, seconded by Mayor Smith. Resolved that pursuant to Section 239, 2B and F of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the Coordinated Committee of September 14th, 2017 will be closed to the public to receive information on personal matters about an identifiable individual and receive advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi.
In favor?
Councillor Ego.
In favor?
Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
In favor.
Chair Bray.
In favor?
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.